there have been 39,773 deaths in firearms in 2017. However, 2.5 million firearms have prevented crimes. This raises the question, what effects will the banning of firearms have on the U.S.? So to discuss this question, we first need to talk about if firearms even need to be banned. Based on this graph, you can see that it raises 10,899 annually from 1909 to 2017, which shows that there need to be some reform to the Second Amendment to change this death rate. However, with the facts presented before, you can see that there is there still is defenses that cause from guns, and there still is a death rate. So there obviously needs to be something done to enable this death rate to go down to keep these defenses in act. So the overall solution that we came up with is that we can reform the Second Amendment for the U.S. needs to allow in the ethical, social, historical, and ethical ones. Sorry, and then so we would do this by keeping firearms in act, but we would only ban certain firearms, meaning modded guns or assault rifles or shotguns. We'd still allow handguns still be in act, and we'd also institute mental evaluations.
On December 15th, 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, eventually known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified. The second one of them said basically that when in chance of a tyrannical government, the U.S. allowed to form a militia across the citizens. The law mainly enacted protections for gun owners, prohibiting a national registry of dealer records and limiting ATF inspections to once per year. Congress most recently passed a bill requiring federal criminal background checks on all firearm sales by a vote of 240 to 190, mainly across party lines. President Trump made a statement saying that he would more than likely veto this bill. Gun control laws are also old or older than the Second Amendment, which was ratified in 1791. Some examples of gun control throughout colonial America include the transfer. They basically didn't allow Catholics, slaves, and servants, or Native Americans to own the firearms. And one implication of one of our solutions of banning assault rifles and shotguns, but not pistols, is that 62% of shootings are done with handguns, 25% semi-auto rifles, 48% semi-auto handguns, 14% revolvers, and 13 shotguns. So this will not really solve the problem in a major way, since most of the mass shootings done in our country are done with handguns. The 18th Amendment, 1920, was ratified in hopes of eliminating alcohol from American life. To the contrary, people intent on drinking found loopholes in the newly passed liquor laws that allowed them to slake their thirst. And when that didn't work, they turned to illegal avenues to do so. Ever since 1992 up to 2016, the Columbine shooting, Sand Hook shooting, and Parkland shooting took place. There has been a strong advocate to ban rifles since these shootings took place, and stronger advocate for stricter gun laws. The Bureau of Internal Revenue estimated that the prohibition caused the shutdown of over 200 distilleries, 1,000 breweries, and over 170,000 liquor stores, damaging the U.S. economy. This exact same thing would happen if we were to ban assault rifles or ban any guns, of course. The gun manufacturers and gun stores would shut down, losing revenue to the U.S. and putting us in even more debt.
$121 billion. This is how much it could cost the U.S. economy, the U.S. government, if we were to ban firearms. This amount comes from the total output in yearly revenue, sales tax, and if we had a government mandatory or optional buyback of firearms. The firearm industry is responsible for more than 300,000 jobs and more than $15 billion in wages. If all firearms were banned, these 300,000 people would lose their jobs and be forced to find a new source of income. It could take 22 weeks to find a new job, and as of 2010, 77% of people are living paycheck to paycheck inside the United States and would be unable to afford getting laid off. A possible solution would be to ban rifles and continue to make it legal to obtain and carry pistols. With this enact, the government would still make it legal to use specific rifles at gun ranges and for hunting purposes. This would be a good solution because it would still allow for companies to employ workers and to contribute money to the U.S. economy. It would also make it so the government won't have to raise taxes due to a large decrease in tax revenue. A limitation to this solution, though, is that the U.S. government would have to change the Second Amendment to specify the firearms allowed at gun ranges and for hunting purposes.
So the Second Amendment has been around for 229 years, along with other amendments in the Bill of Rights. Throughout those years, the gun ownership has gone up, but from 1994 to 2016, it went down a total of 17%, which shows that more people are starting to lose guns, which is why enacting a solution right now would be very helpful because it allows people who have guns to keep it. People who don't have guns, it would be at an all-time low, so people's guns wouldn't be taken away, or at least they're sorry if it's going to be taken away. And back to the graph that Jack showed, it shows that people want stricter gun laws ever since these shootings happened, and they keep on going up and up. So the solution would be very helpful because it allows these people to be able to keep their guns, but allows those guns to be taken away. And although Jack said that a lot of the shootings are not done with pistols, a lot of those pistols that still cause shootings are modded, and we'd also be getting rid of modded guns, which is very helpful to our solution and to our question of how it would affect America because it allows shootings to decrease. So another major aspect that a lot of people don't discuss when they talk about shootings is mental illness. And one of the major things in shootings is that, like the Columbine one, the people who shot up school were all mentally ill. And 1 out of 5 U.S. adults live with mental illness, which is 46.6 million in 2017. And if this still stays in act, and there's 36% of people that have all those firearms, if they can keep that, a lot of shootings will most likely happen. So we instituted mental evaluations for all these people to be evaluated before they purchase the firearms, such as assault rifles, even though they'd be banned, but such as pistols, there wouldn't be as much likelihood of a shooting because they'd be responsible and be able to be cultivated to make sure that they're able to keep these guns and only use it for responsible use. However, other issues that come with these solutions / implications is that social issues also rise from the banning of guns or the non-banning of guns. Such like Black Lives Matter, one of the main things is it's rumored that's police brutality, but there's also a civilian aspect to it. A lot of people think that African Americans, as long as millennials, 50% to be exact, of the death rate is by gun rates. And if we ban certain guns, a lot of these shootings would go down, and it would allow these social issues and our population like bond to go up because we wouldn't be disagreed on social issues such as Black Lives Matter. There are other reforms that come along with this though, because some people say that if we can ban the Second Amendment, who's to say we can't ban other amendments? Based on a study in 2018, it shows that 91% of court cases already violate the Second Amendment. And if this is true, then who's to say that they can't ban other amendments such as this freedom of speech or freedom of press? However, the main part of this question that we need to discuss is the ethical protection of firearms.
The definition of ethical is the rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad. Millennials, as Nick said, are 54% of the gun death rate, and furthermore, a lot of shootings take place in gun-free zones. Question is, what is more ethical, concealed carries or gun-free zones? Gun-free zones, as many of you know, gun-free zones and churches are closely related because most churches are gun-free zones. However, in the West Freeway Church in Texas, this church is not is a gun-friendly zone, and Jack Wilson, as seen here, is seen shooting a suspect with a sawed-off shotgun that was attempting to fire into a crowd. And before many of those people could have been killed, he was stopped. However, there was one death right there. Unfortunately, that was caused by the suspect. And Eric Pratt from USA Today says that the gun-free zones law should be repealed because the Parkland school shooting is another prime example of why gun-free zones failed. If more people had concealed carries, there would be, and had more freedom to take their guns places, the response time to shootings would be a lot less, and as seen in this infographic, in many major cities, the response time to mass shootings are more than 5 minutes on average, and there would be more good guys and bad, and a shorter response time to many threats. We're excited, and excited.
Okay, a few questions for you. Nick, I'm going to start with you. How did the group decide to include Aiden's perspective, lens, or conclusion into the overall presentation?
So Aiden's, he was ethically, and basically we included that because one of the main parts, as he stated, when we first started off his slides, we talked about the meaning of ethical. It's to what's morally right, and if we keep these gun laws in act, we can show that these people can protect themselves from damages that can come, just like in the shooting that he showed. The guy protected himself, he did it with a pistol, and based on our solution, we still have pistols would be in act. So we put in his lens to show and exactly the evidence, the specific piece that I used to enable our solution to show that pistols still enable people to protect themselves, and that the shooting was done with a sawed-off shotgun, which is why we chose the bandits.
Thank you. Jack, you are next. In the future, what change would you make to your group norms, and how would you expect that to improve the overall team presentation?
Well, me personally, I was a designer, and I think I could have done a way better job at designing. So maybe we assign someone else to design the presentation, and we could really be more strict on our working time and meet more during the weekend, so we can have more time to practice and work on our presentation overall, and we could really spend more time on it.
Okay, thank you. Antonio, and what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from the team presentation, and why did you do so?
Well, Nick partially brought this up. It was the modified weapons. We decided to exclude it because it would have brought our time over, and it would have brought us in depth to something other than just changing the Second Amendment and just keeping pistols legal and banning rifles.
Got you. And then finally, Aiden, what do you think was the strongest counter argument to the solution or conclusion that your team identified, and why?
I think it was the strongest counter argument was the Jack Wilson case, where he shot and killed the suspect at the West Freeway Church, because that's a prime example of why handguns can combat shooter threats. And
Okay.